3 things that leads to having fun characters in the game, or fun roles. This just apply for supports, and that is support and rivals is so fucking boring. But wait, I'm not Necros. I'm not here to trash the role. Chill. What's up, everybody? It's True Sage, and yes, it is pronounced True Sage. So I want to start by saying this. I made a mistake. I made a large mistake. Whenever Marvel Rivals initially released, I immediately hopped and made a video about comparing Marvel Rivals with Overwatch 2, which game is better. And I did that because the game was new. I wanted to be able to capitalize on that talking point, because clearly there's a lot of similarities between the two games. And in that video, I said the support and Rivals is better than what it was in Overwatch. Well, that was because the game was in its honeymoon phase. You know the honeymoon phase is, he first looking with a chick, it's all good and Gucci.
Oh, give me that cock.
But now that we're out the honeymoon phase, we can actually see Rivals for the game that it actually is. Support is pretty boring. I'm not finna do the whole Necros thing and trash support. I believe anyone who actually sat there and got mad about Necros take, you have to do it double checking yourself. Bro, he's a Spider-Man main. Support in all games is easily the hardest and most important role in every game. You can run 10 games with like all DPS and tanks and no support, you'll probably lose every single last one of them. You can run 10 games with probably like no DPS and just support and tanks, and you may win every single last one of them. But that's not the point. Who cares if we're winning? At what point we're gonna ask the question, why would you play this game in the first place? I thought it was about fun. I thought the game was about fun. So this is how the video is gonna go. I'm gonna talk about why support of Rivals is boring, and then what makes support fun to play in the first place. Also, I'm comparing it to Overwatch because clearly Rivals took a lot of inspiration from Overwatch, so I feel like with that being the original format for this game, it's only fair to talk about it in comparison. First thing I want to say, and when it comes down to why support is boring in Rivals, I'm gonna address the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is that clearly there just is not a whole lot of characters on support. There's like what, 7, 8? And I'm not gonna sit there and act like the Overwatch did not go through a very similar stage, but there was like not that many characters in support in Overwatch. I've been playing Overwatch since 2016, but I didn't actually seriously start playing the game in about 2020. But even like at 2020, when they stopped updating the game, I think it may have had like also 6, 7, or 8 supports, but supports in Overwatch still felt more fun back then than what it does now. And while there is more supports in Overwatch nowadays, I still think that you can still look at Overwatch 2 as a blueprint to kind of what to do and what not to do with your game and your roles. Now, I know it says I'm going to break up 2 different parts, but every other reason why I explain why support is boring kind of leads me to the second part about what makes support fun to play in the first place. In my opinion, there's 3 things that leads to having fun characters in the game, or fun roles. This just apply for supports, and that is mobility, creativity, impact, and then for me personally, I'm just saying me, maybe not you, but also difficulty. In my opinion, characters that have a lot of movement abilities are more fun to play than characters without it. Like, if I'm pretty sure if there was a support in the game that had the movement ability of, say, Black Panther or Spider-Man, they would probably be a lot more fun to play with, but they're not. And I'm not saying that every single character needs to have high mobility like that, but just in general though, more mobility does lead to a lot more fun. When you look at other roles in this game, going from tank to DPS, they have a lot of characters that have a lot of cool movement ability. You got, Hulk with his jump, Doctor Strange with his portal, Captain America with his run, you even got Venom with the swings, Stan can run, Penny, Thor, blah, blah, blah. DPS, you literally have flying characters like Magic, Scarlet Witch, Spider-Man, Iron Man, blah, blah, blah. When it comes down to support, there isn't really a whole lot of fun movement abilities the way how the other roles have them. Understand it, I get it. If supports can fucking move around like how Spider-Man can in the game, it's gonna be OP. But just in general though, there should be a lot more movement abilities, and at least a lot more fun movement abilities in the game, especially in comparison to, say, Overwatch. I'm gonna sit there and pretend as if the movement ability in Overwatch is that crazy to begin with, because no one really has like any insane kind of movement abilities. I mean, Kiriko can like teleport to people. The ability of Persia can actually teleport twice if you wanted to. I mean, Juno has like a movement speed boost, and she can also fly as well. Lucio also has a movement speed boost. This is probably the most mobile support in the game. He can also wall ride. Really cool, really fun. There isn't exactly a support in Rivals that can do this, but it's not to say there won't be one in the future. Even Moore's Fade is better than Cloak and Dagger's Fade. I mean, it literally just has more distance and can go longer, and then with the additions of Perks, you can even make it better than that. But yeah, I'm not saying that the movement ability in Overwatch is anything too crazy that matches the movement abilities in tank and DPS, but I still do think the movement abilities in Overwatch is better than what it is in Rivals, and I feel like that in the future they should add more characters with better movement, but not just better movement, but also that leads to my second point, and that is that creativity. Creativity is the second thing I want to talk about, and it's such a broad like term for what I mean here, but in a simpler way, what I mean by that is that for a character's abilities to cool down to not be so one-dimensional. A good example what I mean is like Spider-Man's web swinging. it isn't very one-dimensional. Like, you don't have to swing on buildings. You can even have automatic swing on if you want to. It's not even just so much you can swing on the ground, but the ability to have text and exploits within the abilities that doesn't make it one-dimensional. Like, for example, this little whip swing tech, that is not an actual ability. It's just kind of a combination of things that you can do with other abilities, and it leads to a lot more of creative and vast varieties of things you can do with the character. It makes the character more fun to play whenever there's more things you can do that isn't just the surface level cooldown on the screen. Oh shit. It doesn't even need to be with just movement abilities, you know. Like, I think, for example, the Human Torch kind of has a pretty creative ability. His ability to be able to connect his flames, I think, is what I mean by creativity. Because there's so many different shapes and varieties of how you can use this ability. It doesn't have to necessarily be 4 of them. It doesn't have to be 3 of them. It can be 2. It doesn't even have to be that shape. You can do all different kinds of shapes. It can lead into so many different varieties of how you want to do it. Doctor Strange is a great example on tank. His portal build is probably the most creative one in the entire game. See what this looks like.
Pentagram of Parala.
Yeah, this is what I mean. This is an ability. See how creative this portal ability is? There's so many different vast things you can do with this one cooldown alone. I mean, even with the group walls to a certain extent, you can do a lot of different text and creative things with it. That's just different parts of the map. There's also a vast of different things you can do with the group walls. Who knows what you can do or what you want to do. It just depends on how you feel at the time, you know? But in support, there really isn't a character that really has that massive amount of creativity, really. Third thing that I believe makes a character / role fun to play is impact. Here's my biggest problem with supports and rivals. I feel like that they don't really have that big of an impact on team fights the way how say supports do in Overwatch. The role is called support, not healer, which means it's supposed to support the team in a vast variety of different ways other than just healing the team. And I feel like in rivals, the supports are pretty much just limited to healing the team. That is the most impact they can do. Or really all supports, that's the most impact they can do. But still though, it doesn't really feel like there's any other ways to impact the team fight besides healing. There's no other cooldowns you have that can really set up plays that can really get a lot of momentum going. This woman maybe, with the ability to push people forward and get them out of position. Other than that, there isn't really a lot of characters that can set up plays. Rocket doesn't really do much to set up plays. I mean, he can do damage, but in actual games, his damage is not the way how you think it is. Matches can give people a damage boost, but if I'm being honest with you, I barely even notice Matches damage boost if I'm being honest with you. And she has to sleep, which I do think is pretty cool. Even Cloak and Dagger, she literally has an ability to do damage, but it can't really do damage the way how say Moira can in Overwatch. People want to feel like that they can do multiple different things to be impactful. But in the support role in Marvel Rivals, there's really only one way to be impactful, and that's just healing. And after a while, it gets boring. I'm just going to give you an example with Overwatch about how their supports can make an impact in team fights that isn't just healing. And again, I don't want to constantly compare Overwatch to Rivals, but again, with Rivals taking heavy inspiration from Overwatch, this kind of seems fair. I know also has a stun as well, but I mean, just characters in Rivals have a stun. Bond has the ability to anti-enemies, which causes them to not even being able to receive heals at all. That is very impactful because the enemy team can't receive heals for a certain amount of time. You can push farther, thus making plays. Baptiste is a literal DPS support. Like, any good Baptiste is probably going to deal more damage than they do heals. Alari, also a DPS support, where she's really just a fucking hit scan, mid-range sniper almost. If things go wrong, Life Reaver can literally just pull his teammates to him, completely removing them from the team fight. And there's plenty of different creative ways you can use that as well. Even besides just characters cooldowns, they still have a lot of damage output. A lot of characters in Rivals, while they can deal damage, it doesn't really seem as if they're primarily made to do that. While a lot of heroes in Overwatch can actually deal damage, just making them more impactful than it's just healing. The fourth thing for me is also difficulty. I like playing characters to have a high ceiling, high reward. There's a difference between a character to have a high ceiling, high reward, meaning that it takes a lot of skill to learn the character, but if you learn the character, they have a lot of like great payouts. They're like one of the best characters in the game, versus a character that is super hard to play, has a really high ceiling but low reward, meaning that it takes a lot of skill to play with them, but they're not very good at the game. As long as they're good at the game, but they're skilled, it's more fun to me. It's like a game within the game, but trying to figure out how to learn this difficult ass character, which is why I like Honor a lot, because Honor is literally a sniper. And so having to hear your teammates who was like across the map by sniping them is a little bit difficult. You need a lot of aim, but that's just, but not everyone probably wants to play a difficult character, but that's just me though. Also, like a couple other minor minuscule things that also make support boring and rivals. One of the things is ultimates. Ultimates in Overwatch are infinitely times more fun to use than what it is in Rivals. Ana literally has the ability to turn people to a temporary Super Saiyan, including her own self. Laurie literally has the ability to throw down a effing sun bomb, and it also gives her the ability to fly for temporarily. Or literally shoots a fucking Kamehameha. Meanwhile, the supports in Rivals are pretty much all just a big area of healing for the most part. You have Cloak and Dagger who kind of just lays down a big field of healing. You have Mantis who also does just a big field of healing. You have Luna Snow who also does just a big field of Sorry, my microphone quality had dropped severely, but what I basically want to say for this portion of the video is that every single support ultimate in the game is pretty boring, as all this consists of one big massive field of healing. Another nitpicking point I want to make as well is that all supports pretty much and rivals all heal their teammates kind of almost the exact same way, where they're shooting their teammates. It kind of gets boring after a while too. I mean, they all just kind of shoot their teammates and shoot their teammates and shoot their teammates and shoot your teammates. I don't really know if this counts as the other ones, but I'm going to let Jeff slide. Anyways, though, in conclusion, I think the best way to make support better in Marvel Rivals is just to pretty much make it to where in the future, when you add new support characters, be sure you add heavy hitters, Marvel characters that we all know and love as household names, put them on support roles so more people can be more influenced to want to play them. Be sure that you give them fun and good mobility, a lot of creative cooldowns, and also make sure to have an ability to have an impact on team fights that isn't just necessarily healing. And also, some pretty fun ultimates as well. Anyways, though, let me know in the comment section down below. Do you think support is boring in Marvel Rivals? And right down there, hit the subscribe button. It does help you, but it helps you too. Well, I see content similar to this one. If you guys did subscribe me, I appreciate it a lot. If you guys didn't, I guess we'll part ways. Either way, I go out and keep it easy, and I'm gone. Peace.
That's all it is, man. Leap of faith.